10 years loud, proud, and trusted. Power 95, a decade strong.
Of Power 95 Grenada. Puffy says, congratulations. And how we reach here already? 10 years is no easy feat for any business. So this is a true testament to the entire team's warmth, their professionalism, and of course their positive energy in the business, giving you, Grenada, all of the vibes each and every single second of the day.
If your man acting up or your woman losing she mind, right we don't hide till we inside, cause the ladies room go set it right. In the ladies room we talk it straight, love, drama, heartbreak and fate, no pretense here, we tell it true, cause the ladies room is made for you. Hosted by sweet voice and all the real talk you can handle. Welcome, welcome to the ladies' room, where real men talk and truth go boom. Good morning, if your man acting up or your woman losing she mind, right we don't.
Oh, na na na, it's only love in the ladies' room. It's love in the room. It's love in the room. Well, if it's in her loving tongue, baby, it's love in the room. Don't whine on me here, lady. It's love in the room. We wanna fight and stray. It's love in the room. We playing with House Monday in the ladies' room. Don't worry, us. She's safe. You're giving topic to Aruna. Study your place. Your woman outside with cousin whole day. You can't see face. The story end up on ladies' room. You disappear without trace. Voila. If all she know is Papi show.
And truth go boom. Good morning, if your man acting up or your woman losing she mind, right we don't hide till we inside, cause the ladies' room go set it right. In the ladies' room we talk it straight, love, drama, heartbreak and fate, no pretense here, we tell it true, cause the ladies' room is made for you. Hosted by sweet voice and all the real talk you can handle.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the ladies' room for today, Wednesday, November 19th. And indeed, it's a pleasure to have you here with us. Listen, we had to get it on. Hold on. Let me play. Hold on, listen. Applause. And then we have the drum roll. All right. So we're doing things inside the room. Good morning, everybody. Welcome back. And as you can see, we have a very special guest this morning. And you know we can't stick right. We're jumping right on into it. But first, let me just say thank you so much to our friends at Nirvana Spa and Detox. Thank you so much, Harry Edwards Jewelers. Thank you so much, Western Union. and Beacon Insurance for powering up our morning. An absolute pleasure to have you back. And this morning we have the Honorable Peter David in our company, and we'll be talking to him momentarily. But first, let me just say good morning to those of you viewing the live stream on Facebook and, of course, YouTube. You're listening on radio 95.1, 95.3, or you are listening via, or you are powered up via the app. That is the Power app. And remember, take us with you wherever you go. All you've got to do is go to your Google Play Store or your App Store, Apple Store, and download it. Right? So a special welcome to each and every one of you wherever you are. Usually we'll have a long intro, but this morning you will understand in the interest of time we have to cut that short, but just know that I appreciate you guys a whole lot. I know I'm going to hear, oh, I have special guests, so I'm cutting you guys because of that. But, I mean, understand. It's okay to understand sometimes, all right? So with that said and done, like I said, we have the Honorable Peter David in the studio with me this morning. And as always, I want you guys to give him a warm ladies' room welcome coming in. And of course, you're welcome to add your voices to the conversation, because that is what we do here. All right, we have conversation. So once again, good morning, Grenada. Good morning to everyone locked in at home, at work, online, across the diaspora. Welcome. And of course, today inside the ladies' room, we're stepping into the political conversation that everyone has been buzzing about since Sunday night. And Grenada now has the brand new political party, the Democratic People's Movement. And of course, leading this new formation is a man whose name has been, tied to almost every major political chapter in recent history. Former Foreign Affairs Minister, Agriculture, you name it, tourism, and both a member of the NDC and the NNP, and now political leader of the DMP, Mr. Peter David. He says the country needs a different politics, but Grenadians want to know, what does that really mean? How different and why now? So this morning, we're asking the questions because I think the people deserve clarity, right? And so we're going to get right into it. Without any further ado, we say a special morning and welcome to Honorable Peter David. Welcome to the ladies' room. I think it's your first time.
Thank you. Yeah, first time in the ladies' room, not first time in the studio, but certainly first time in the ladies' room, at least this ladies' room. Yes, it is. But it's a pleasure to be here. I look forward to having that conversation this morning.
Wonderful. How have you been?
Good. We have, what happened on Sunday is the culmination of months, if not years of work. And I feel good after it. I walk the streets a lot, around people a lot. And people are saying, I got a call from a guy in St. Kitts this morning who said, Peter, it's the first time we see something like that in the region, that kind of launch in any event. And yes, we put a lot of thought into it. We had a lot of community conversations. We've been around the country. I've traveled quite a bit over the last few years. So in a sense, we were ready for Sunday, and I'm glad the people were also ready for Sunday. So I want to thank everybody who came out, but not because they're supporting the movement necessarily, but they're willing to listen. And it took courage on the part of some of them who people these days don't want to be associated, fear and that kind of thing. But I'm happy for those who came, those who listened on other media. So yes, I'm happy. I feel good, and I think that there is a chord that we are hitting that seems to me to resonate among the people. So yes, thanks for asking, and we are there.
Okay. Well, prior to Sunday's launch, you did say irrespective of party or whoever you're supporting, you just wanted people to come and listen with an open ear, and I think that they definitely heeded the call, whichever party. You even invited them to come in the colors that they support.
Come in your green,
that
come in
your
move. As the Bible says, come as you are. No, because we understand that people, for the most part in Grenada, it's people are in one tribe or the other, and some people are in no tribe. So wherever you are, come and listen. And when you leave, let's have the conversation. Let's have the conversation about if you think what we're saying makes sense, how we can change. You see, this whole thing came from conversations with people in the villages. After the leadership issue with the NNP, we went out into the villages. we just didn't wake up the following morning and say, let's form a movement. We went to the people in several communities throughout the country, and that was the response. So yes, I think on Sunday was a culmination of that. And
So
I'm quite
that,
happy.
that leads to the question, because you said it was it didn't just happen overnight. So what would you say was the developmental process that went into forming your party?
Yes, I mean, I have been around, as you said in the introduction. I've been around. I've been in politics over 50 years, and I've been involved at several levels, ministerial levels, general secretary of both, assistant general secretary in the NEP, general secretary in the NDC, and I've met people who are committed to this country. And after the debacle, if you want to call it that, with the NNP, I had come into the NNP. I felt I had made substantial contributions as foreign minister, as agriculture minister, as labor minister, as deputy general secretary. And when the position arose, I decided to put in a bid for the leadership. It didn't work out. I don't want to go into all of the reasons why it didn't work out. It didn't work out. And we decided that let's explore other options. So I think it is as a result of the fact that we found that there's a substantial amount of people in Grenada who want something new, who believe that both parties have not satisfied them, who believe that it is the time now that we should get involved, and especially the next gen out there. They have been clamoring. I was shocked. In fact, my major shock on Sunday was the amount of young people I saw. The next gen presence at the launch was excellent for us. I mean, I see my own grandchildren becoming participants in this thing. I'm very excited about it. I remember, I started my own political career in the GBSS at about 15 years old. And I saw young people with a similar passion last Sunday, and I see them very much involved and with their movement jerseys and so on. And I felt good. So this thing came as a result, as I say, of a lot of consultation, a lot of discussions. And I believe after the debacle, as I said, with the NMP, we felt that, let us explore whether or not the country is ready for this. There are people who would tell you that they told me this 10 years ago. One gentleman came to me this morning. He said, I asked you about that 10 years ago. You didn't do it. I said, 10 years ago was not the time. There comes a time when it's the time, because as I said in a meeting the other day, if I had started it 10 years ago and it didn't work, some people come and say, Peter, I told you it wouldn't work. So it's about timing. It's about feeling the energy. It's about feeling the pulse. I believe, based on what I'm seeing, based on what I'm hearing, now is the time, because people are fed up. In addition to the thousands of people who have ceased to participate in the electoral process, there are thousands of people who do not participate. They're looking for something different, and they're looking our way.
You've just said it, and you've said this several times. You've described the DMP as a movement for different politics, right? So what will the DMP actually do differently from what we have, like the NNP, the NDC? What would the difference be?
Well, there's several things, but mostly and this is again as a result of my experience over the years, as a result of what I've seen, we need to pull this country together. I have seen, coming from, for example, I had an example the other night, NHI, National Health Insurance. Everybody agrees that we need to do something about healthcare. The previous government started the process. The process got fairly well down the road to delivery. Election came. The new government pulled back on it, and they started to review everything again. So we were right back to square one, coming into our next election in a couple of years where we are still discussing, rather than us just moving smoothly. And that comes as a result of the tribal nature of our discourse. And I believe what we want to do, what we should be doing, is agreeing on the things that we agree should be done. Continuing to disagree on what should be done, but working to find agreement. In other words, treat Grenada as Grenada. Treat our people as our people, and find common ground. I said I went to a village in St. Andrew one night, and the people were not there. There were not much people there. And I said, where are they gone? Well, one set had gone to an NMP meeting. The other set had gone to a NDC meeting. And I said, well, has there been, and is there any time when they all meet together in this village to talk about the village? They say no. They meet in their tribal zones. So when they come back to the village, they're just arguing across the village, and that is encouraged by politicians. It is encouraged because that is how winner takes all. You see, in our system, winner takes all. So you want to win because you take all. We try and are attempting to find a way to get Grenada to win. And the first thing is for us to believe we can do it. So we are going to advocate. Of course, we have some ideas on how it can be done in terms of the constituency apparatus and bringing the people together. But people, a huge amount of people, are fed up. They look at the way the parliament operates, just tribal war. They look at where the meetings, look at what you're hearing in the news. Look at what you're hearing when the meetings take place, just constant attacking. And the young people are saying, we're just fed up with that. All we want is some capital to start a business. All we want to do is ensure that we could have a house like everybody else. What we want to do is to ensure that we can start a business, in digital business, that kind of business. So we hope, and this is the overarching, that we need the participation of all. Grenada's strength does not lie in the power of a few. It lies in the participation of all our people, and that is the beginning. Now, there are programs and so on that we'll talk about, but that is the foundational principles that we have, that the tribal politics that has governed this country and permeated all of the villages and communities needs to cease. We need to tone down a little bit. Let's talk.
So what would you say to some or whoever may will, that the DPM looks like familiar political faces in a new color? What truly makes this party new?
Well, it's first of all, many of the people are not familiar faces. They are new people. Our people in our movement, they're not professional politicians. Mm-hmm. And there are many more out there who are fearful, which we can talk about too, because it's a fear out there for people to participate. First of all, so yes, there are new people who coming into politics with new ideas and not steeped in the tribal traditions. Secondly, we can change the approach. Look, for example, at my approach in the Parliament of Grenada. I was there this morning.
Yeah,
and, there's a bill. And the bill benefits Grenada. Now, we can find ways to tear down each other as to why we got here and tear down each other in the Parliament. But we start with a conversation about we are here. We look at why we are here. There may be some criticisms, but how do we get there? So the first thing we are attempting to do is to establish discourse between people. That's why I said, come in your yellow, come in your green, come in your blue, just come, let's start that discourse. And I believe when people meet each other, I have said that if you bring a community, let's suppose you bring a community of Closure together tomorrow, I think everybody in Closure will agree on the problems of Closure. Everybody will agree everybody needs better healthcare, education. Bring them back out and bring them in their tribal colors. And they're going to be fighting. How do we solve the problem? I don't have the solutions to all the problems. For example, Africa is a classic example of divisions. Mm-hmm. When Africa was colonized in the 17th and 18th century, Africa was weakened because the Europeans divided up the continent. So people in Nigeria have 3 and 4 tribes in these continent on the continent in a country, and they're fighting each other. When Africa now starts to unite around the Africa Union and all of these mechanisms that have been put in place to pull Africa together, given Africa's strength in terms of resources and all of that, Africa is on the rise. In other words, unity can do the same thing for the Caribbean. Not only, and we are not talking about this only in the context of Grenada. In the context of the Caribbean, if we unite as a Caribbean people, we become much more powerful in dealing with the world. So yes, I know people, and you know what? People going to say it can't work. Because people have come to believe that this is what it is. Fight each other. I've told politicians when I've been in both parties, brethren, we can come together. They say, no. This is the way. We have to fight. We have to get we people together, and we have to fight their people.
You just mentioned it as well, that, you've been a key figure in the NDC, then the NNP, and now you're leading another party. How do you convince Grenadians that this move is guided by, let's say, principle and not political will or political survival, if you may?
Well, first of all, people know me. And I will tell you that the people remember, I won twice for NMP in the town of St. George. and let me give the people at the Tonga St. George a shout out while I'm here. Tonga St. George, and I won twice for the NDC. That is because people know who I am. I am not an unknown quantity. The issue of power, people will tell you, people who worked with me in the NDC and people who worked with me in the NMP. Look at it with the NMP. I simply walked away. When the heat got to the point where I believe divisiveness and this rancor was ramping up, I simply left. I don't curse the NMP. I don't curse anybody. I don't fight those battles because I believe we have one set of enemies. Let me tell you what our enemies are: underdevelopment, poverty, lack of education, lack of housing, lack of good medical care. Those are the things that we should see as our enemies. So no, people will be skeptical. And you know what? Now that we've launched Aruna, the attacks are going to come fast and furious because people now, at first they dismissed us. They said it can't be done. Peter can't do this. It won't. But what they don't realize is that when you are committed, and we are committed to this country, I have been committed from I'm 15 years. When I came into politics, I didn't make a decision to come into politics. We just came into politics, if you speak to my generation of the 70s and the 80s. And we have continued on that path. And people who know me know my passion for people. I've had a passion. When I go to court, I have passion for people. When I'm in the Ministry of Tourism, in the Ministry of Agriculture, it's a passion for people. Of course, there'll be people who will try to smear me. And I've tried that. From the day I walked in to politics in 2001, 2002, people said it couldn't work. People said, Peter, you will never win a seat because you are this, you are that. I've won 4 times since then. And because people know me. So no, my
Maybe
motive.
you should start writing your book if you haven't as yet. Because
People tell me
you
that
have a
all
story.
the time.
You have a story.
I
You
do have
definitely have
a few
story
stories.
to tell. Yeah, I definitely would love to read about it. But I realize though that people often lose trust when leaders switch sides or switch parties. So why should voters believe that this time you're staying put?
Well, let me tell you this. I didn't switch sides. I remain on the side of Grenada. I have always. Despite, and you can ask the people of the town of St. George and people throughout the country, despite whatever party I belong in, I deal with all people. That is why I could say, come in here yellow, come in here green, come in here blue, because people, and they came. I looked out in the room and I saw people from NDC, people from LNP, and people from no party. They came. How could they trust me? Well, first of all, I didn't leave the NDC. I was expelled. And no matter how many times I say it, people still have asked me why I left. I left because on one fateful Sunday morning, a decision was taken by a small group to move a motion to expel, not me alone, about 10 people from the party, and we were expelled, never to be invited back in. With respect to the NNP and what happened there, well, I was audacious enough, I was bold enough to offer myself for leadership. And then everything was fine until I started hearing that you don't come from the belly of this thing, so you could never rise to leadership. And if with all of the rancor, and what bothered me most is that with all of the rancor, all of the attacks, attack, I was just left alone doing it. So I decided, you know what, I'm not wanted here. And my mother gave me good manners, so I just quietly left. I didn't make any worries. And here I am now. So the point is, I think what happened to me over years is that it is difficult for maybe some of the people at high ranks of the party to deal with persons who assert their views. I tell everybody, Aruna, that I will express my views to you as a friend every time what I believe. You may not like it, but it is my view. And I do it respectfully. But so nobody can say Peter is this guy who grabbing for this, grabbing for that.
So let me ask you one thing before we move on to the party side of things. What is one mistake in your political career that you feel you absolutely had to grow from?
Interesting question. You have me thinking. Yeah, there are several things. I learned that we have to be thoughtful before we act. I remember I experienced 1983, 1979, and 1970s. And throughout that period, I grew. I've grown a lot. And, if you don't grow from those experiences and learn from those experiences, then you're not human. And I believe two things come to my mind. One, I have learned that there are good people in politics, and good people who not caring about their own development, no, their own personal achievements, but care about the country. Both in NNP and NDC, they are very good people, and we must treat them as such. They may have been born into a family that was NNP or NDC, but they are reasonable people. The second thing is that we should always be careful not to assume that we can't achieve things. This idea of unity, this idea of coming together. People say to you, I remember when I came back in 2000, I remember meeting a good friend on Scott Street, and he said, Peter, people like you who are around June Revolution could never win a seat. But I believe that Grenadian people are reasonable people and understand that people grow and people evolve over time. So I've been patient a lot in politics. I mean, I've been patient, and I believe we can achieve it. I dream a lot about a society where we come together and build, and I believe those dreams can be fulfilled.
You know, some people say that third parties can't win elections in Grenada. What makes the movement different?
I have a friend who would say it's not a third party, it's a first-rate movement. No, first of all, the idea that third parties can't win is absolutely not true. You recall where the NDC came from? The NDC came from the NNP. It was George Brizan, it was Francis Alexis, there was a few of them totally dissatisfied with the NNP. And there was the NNP, there was the GULP existing, and then came the NDC. So and the NDC succeeded. In fact, they won 2 elections since that time. So the foundational position that you start with is not true. Another party, call it the third, can evolve. But secondly, yes, what they're trying to say is that 3 parties cannot coexist over a long period. But if you look at the history, and if you go back to and I don't want to go into the details now, but if you go back to the late 60s, 70s, 80s, what happens at times, at some historic junctures, is that the 2 parties, another formation comes along. What happens is one of the 2 major parties ceases to exist over time. It doesn't happen immediately. So, for example, I don't know if you're old enough to remember GULP and GNP. And both GNP and GULP were the major parties.
Forgot about GNP.
Both of them ceased to exist over time. The first one that ceased to exist would have been, in my view, if history had continued without 79, would have been the GNP. The GNP went from 1967 in government to a steep decline. So by 1976, they were down to having to join an alliance in order to get some seats in Parliament. And Maurice Bishop became the leader of the opposition from the New Jewel movement. The GNP having declined seriously, with the New Jewel movement taking a substantial amount of votes in that election in 76 from the GNP. So the GNP went into a steep decline after 1967 and further on. And they had won in 67. So the point I'm making is this. When you read the history, it has happened. You call it third parties. New parties have come along. They have coexisted with the other 2 major parties. And one of the 2 major parties, I don't know one in this context. In fact, on Monday morning, I saw somebody called me and said, Peter, the narrative has now turned to which of the 2 major parties will disappear. Yeah. Well, I can't tell you that because I don't have the data on that. But what I can tell you, that the movement is on the rise. What I saw on Sunday tells me that something has resonated. People looked and they saw something that they're talking about. Where that goes is a matter for the people. And I am not sure which of the other 2 parties will be more impacted. That seems to be a big debate taking place out there. But we are focused on building our movement and becoming a force to be reckoned with.
You've been the MP for the town of St. George for forever. It's literally your turf. It's like this is your space. How would you describe your tenure? How would you describe your service to the people in the town of St. George?
Well, at the level of my relationship with the people of the town of St. George, it's solid. I'm born in the town of St. George. My family is from the Carenage. I grew up, places like talk it 4 roads. Now we used to call, St. John Street, Granville Street. My family and families over there and all of that. So my relationship is excellent. In terms of development in the town of St. George, a lot of development has taken place in the town of St. George. Some that I have been responsible for, and some that other governments are responsible for. The place we sit at the moment, has been developed over time. The challenge with the town of St. George is that there is hardly space left. We have to plan it better because physically it is tight. And, housing, lots for people. Housing is a challenge. So we have the Chinese housing, which puts people in condominium-style housing. So we have to build more of that. We have issues of young people. In the town of St. George, if you're not working, you don't have land. Like if you're going to the country, a man could go in the river, they could go in the sea. They have a lot of fisher people and so on. In the town of St. George, you need to work in order to survive. A lot of young people are finding it difficult to get capital to establish businesses. But I must say, quite a few of them. I have a young friend in Mount Rush who is very much interested in doing his farming business in the town of St. George, and he's been very successful in doing it. You have people on the Carronade, some people have become technical electricians and so on, they're working. So there are challenges, but I have been absolutely happy with being the MP for the town of St. George and the relationship I continue to have with the people of the town of St. George. Despite the difficulties, we've achieved a lot. The Tantine playing field, the pavilions, what's happening in roads that we built in Dabo, Kalata. I don't want to go into all of that on H. Blaze Street roads again. We've done quite a bit of infrastructural work in the town of St. George. But a big demand that we're unable to satisfy is housing, because land availability in the town of St. George is really zero.
Yeah, and people don't want to move out of the area.
People love being in the town of St. George. And in fact, people leave the rural areas. And this is another problem, as you alluded to. The fact is, when you have a decline in the rural communities, we find that people move to the town of St. George, they move to Grand Anse in search of jobs, and that brings additional pressure on the housing stock that we have in the town of St. George.
What would be the first major policy action of our DPM government?
Yeah, the movement. We are still in the process of developing all of our ideas because, as I said, the policy committee headed by Dr. Bridgman has looked at several areas. But one of the policy documents we indicated talked about housing, that young people, up to age 35, for example, they are looking for housing. As I indicated earlier, housing is a big issue. So we are proposing that a $35,000 grant be given to young people to if it's a single family, a single person, and if it's a family, a $50,000 grant to get them started. I think what we have to do is encourage young people to develop generational wealth, to find ways to start, as people say, give them a start. In addition to that, capital. It is difficult to go to the bank. I have young people who want to start a business. The banks, you go to the bank and tell them you want to buy a car or you want to buy a bus. You're driving out the bank with the car or the bus. But you go and tell them, listen, I want to start a business. I want to start a little phone business or some digital business, some computer business or so. The bank would, of course, I know the bank will tell you they're risk averse. They don't like risk. The higher the risk, the less capability you get it. This is where the government has to come in, and I think GDP was supposed to do that, but the GDP sometimes have become as risk averse as the commercial banks. So I think providing access to young people to develop their own businesses, because I do believe, as I said in my speech on Sunday, poverty is not only bad for people, it's bad for business. Poverty is bad for business, because this young man in front of us here today, or if young people in general are able to establish businesses, they have developed monies, their families get more money, they can go out and shop more. If people become wealthy, or wealthier than they are at the moment, not wealthy in the sense of having millions, but if people have money in their pockets, businesses thrive. And businesses will thrive if we give people the capacity to develop their earning power, and if we develop that generational wealth that we're talking about for young people.
No, I realize you speak a lot on young people, and how will the to add more to what you just said, how will the DPM attract young voters who feel this sort of disconnect? Because I hear them sometimes, they're disconnected and sometimes unimpressed by traditional politics.
Yes.
What is your modus operandi in attracting those?
Because we treat them as objects. We don't make them participate. You know, the politicians talk about the young people. They don't let the young people decide what they want. What we hope to attract into the movement is the next gen who will come and help develop, articulate, and implement policies for them. Too many times we talk to the young people. We talk down at young people and make them feel they're somehow not part of the process. We have to make them part of the decision-making process. And they have to have the confidence that their voices will be heard. And that is what we're trying to attract. I hope that young people with ideas can come into the movement. And from there, they start articulating what they believe will assist their generation. I'm not saying expecting me, who's not a young people, as we say, to a young person, to do it. So yes, I think our main task, and I was, as I said, I was pleased on Sunday when I looked around. I saw all these next gen in the crowd. I figured, yes, we're going to achieve the objective of having them come and be policymakers, not just people subject to the policies of the movement, but the persons who are creating the policies of the movement for their generation. And that is how we will solve it. And again, as I say, it starts with conversations. I don't come here as if I come as savior of the nation. I come offering some proposals, not only about programs, but how do we develop a mechanism. So, for example, one of our policies, we believe that communities, we should develop a mechanism. We may have to do some constitutional change on that to give communities some empowerment. It used to be called local government, where they have not only politicians coming in and talk to them, but they're sitting in their community and saying, you know what, we need to put a road here, or we need to put some electricity here, or we need to put a school here. And then, once they do that as a community, not as tribal, separated in tribes, and not only the power to propose that, but the power to implement it. Because you see what happens as politicians, what we do, we come and we convince you to vote for us. But you have no power. I always say to people in the communities, you should give the politician a job. Don't give the politician the power. You know, in California, if halfway in your term, the Californians believe that as a governor, you don't fulfill what they told you to do, they could recall you. So maybe we need mechanisms that give people more power over the people they elect. And that will alert the people who are being elected that they have to be responsible, and mechanisms for ensuring that they have power over what is done in the constituency.
I've been seeing a lot of this comment this person is also making on the live again about you being there for 3 decades and now you have the vision and you were there and you didn't do this and you didn't do that. What is your response to that?
I told you, Arun, I tell them stop listening to who's speaking and listen to what who's speaking is saying. I expect that. Stop listening to who's speaking. Listen to what the person is saying. If what I'm saying doesn't make sense, tell me it doesn't make sense and tell me why what I'm saying doesn't make sense. Bernie Sanders in the United States, you know his biggest base? Young people. And he's the oldest politician. Why? He's saying what the young people want to hear. So tell the person I say, just block out that it's Peter speaking and listen to what Peter is saying and respond with some level of depth
is not doing.
about what it is I'm saying. So if he disagrees that a community should have power, then tell me why and tell me what he believes. If he likes what is happening, he or she, I don't know who is speaking, likes what is happening now, say what is happening now is fine. But the fact that it is me speaking is of no moment.
I've always meant to ask this, right? And this goes for politicians generally. And based on what the person just said, a lot of the times we see it as, okay, this politician is not doing this or this politician is not doing that. How does it work? Because you're part of a government, you're part of a ministry. And a lot of the times I think people see it as, okay, you're in control of a ministry or whatever, so that means you're supposed to make things happen, whether it's in infrastructure, whether you're the minister of health, you're supposed to ride in and save health. That is your ministry, that is your job. And if it's not health is not going the way it's supposed to, then it is your fault.
That's a critical.
How do we help us to understand how it works?
Critical
because a lot
question.
of the times I think that is where we look at the MP as the one responsible
Absolutely.
for.
Critical question. I will tell you, I've met MPs in cabinet or ministers in cabinet who struggle for their constituencies. But remember, it's a small pie, and the pie has to be shared. So, an MP may want. I remember back when I was in NDC, I wanted to get some fields lighted up in St. George. I remember that one day another MP who was responsible for that went to Parliament and said, you know what? The countryside has been neglected. We are rebalancing. Those were the words. So you have to wait. The point I'm making is this, that it is not easy in our structure. You're in cabinet and you're subject to cabinet responsibility, meaning you have to speak as one voice out of cabinet. Secondly, you're taking food from one pot in the cabinet. So yes, it's sometimes difficult because you're struggling in cabinet, but I can't come out and say, you know what, I asked for this, but they don't want to give me because we know the consequence of that. So it is difficult, but we fight on. And it's cabinet responsibility, and it's the responsibility of the members of parliament and other persons in the cabinet to abide by cabinet decisions that are made collectively. So yes, some MPs get blamed for things that they absolutely had no responsibility for, but that is the nature of the system that we have at the moment.
Well, our time is quickly moving, but I think I got two more, and we can call it a day. But in terms of development and your party, we over the years have seen major challenges with unemployment, cost of living, and especially now cost of living it's going through the roof. Brain drain, people migrating to other places, the healthcare, etc. What new political thinking does the movement bring to these issues?
Well, there's a lot. I mean, in terms of healthcare, for example, we believe that the big issue is medication, access to medication, and access to healthcare. I know the government has proposed a $250 million, hospital. Mm-hmm. While I wouldn't sit here and say I would be against a hospital, because that wouldn't be right, I don't believe that a $250 million hospital is the answer to Grenada's healthcare problems. If we can't manage the little one that we have, I don't know how we're going to manage the big one. And as I said in my speech, I hope that doesn't lead us down the path of having a healthcare that only the rich will survive, because poor people will not be able to afford it because it must be financed. We believe that we need more community health care. We believe we need more preventative health care. And we've said this, it's been said in Grenada for years. I mean, you look at St. John's, there's a wonderful health center in St. John's. That kind of building, that kind of structure, that kind of facility must be financed, but it must also be well staffed. We believe we must ensure that we have better nurses, better equipment in the hospital. So that is on the healthcare. In terms of education, we need to realign our education to what our needs are. I mean, everybody is talking about getting a university degree and they end up going away. We end up training people for another country because we are not training people for our demands. We have said that we do a reset on the human resource capacity we have. We will check everybody on what their skills are, what their ambition is to become. See where the economy is. Do we need more plumbers, more carpenters? Do we need more digitally skilled people? What do we need? When China started its development, when Singapore started its development, what they did was to see what they want. China found that they needed a whole lot of engineers. So they trained engineers. We have not done that. In other words, and business people will tell you that, there's a serious disconnect between what the economy needs and the people we are training. We need to fix that. We need to fix the hospitality training, medical training at the level of the nurses and so on. So we need to sync all of these things. But I think the important thing is that we sit down and do that survey, see where we are, and then proceed to train people for where we are. You see what happens with the system that we have, and I go back to the systemic problems, is that a government wins the election by criticizing the other government. And then they spend about a year trying to figure out how to get to the bathrooms in the ministries. They don't know who their people are. And then they spend 2 years trying to implement new stuff because they criticize the old stuff. And then by the third year, they start campaigning for the next elections. There is no sit down to decide where we go forward. We need to sit down as a people and determine what we need. And that is where I go back to my original position, which is we need to come together. And that is our mantra. We need to come together to decide. Look, we have a national development plan, 2035 plan. I've had conversations throughout the last year, but it never comes up because nobody's read it. Nobody knows it because what happened? It was developed by some technicians, put on a shelf somewhere in a ministry, and it stays there, our national development plan. And then you had Vision 75 or Vision I can't remember, 75. What is it? How do we as communities fit into that? That is how you plan development. The countries that have developed rapidly, the countries that have developed with solid economies are countries that planned their development. As we say in Grenada, we too vague. Government come with the idea, you just throw out everything the previous government do, like we did with NHI. Now I hear NHI may come back later on, but we spent the last 3 years. NHI was on the verge of implementation. So I believe if you ask me what's a foundational principle, we decide what our development goals are, and we come together to implement it, and we plan it properly.
Well, we're almost out of time, but 3 years, 2 more years to go. The PM has said he's not in a hurry to call any elections. People are saying this year, early elections. He did say he was not in a hurry to call any elections. So what are your party's plans for contesting the election? Is the movement looking to field a complete slate of candidates?
Yes, that's our intention. Whether or not we're successful in winning the 15 is another question for the electorate. But in terms of feeling, yes, we will. We've had several people who are on board already, who are interested. We are not announcing candidates or anything. We're not there. We are fielding 15, God's willing. And we hope that good people will come forward. The thing is, there's a fear.
You say good people.
Well, good people with good plans in their head, people with commitment to the communities, not people just looking to be in politics per se, but with the intention to serve. You see, we need people who want to serve. The politics, people believe politics is something you just get into to sit in the parliament. You get into politics to make sure that the people you represent, that is if you're coming in as a candidate, the people you represent are well served. And if we get people who want to a lot of people are fearful now, Aruna, too. You ask people, they say, boy, me, this politics thing, I remember one politician told me the first time he knew his mother was a prostitute is when he get into politics. First they say a thing about him. I have been lambasted. I mean, the kinds of stuff I hear about myself. But you know what? I stay focused. And I said to everybody who's going to attack me over the next several weeks, keep attacking because it means you're not focusing on what needs to be focused on. Let us focus on what we are saying. Let us focus on how we offer our people a better Grenada. Let us focus on how we get our next gen up and running with the businesses they want to have, with the training they need, rather than focusing on me. Because I will not be responding, and they can come 1,000 times. I will be, as I say, if you can tell me what you're saying about me will help us solve poverty, I will listen. If it helps us solve the problems of education, I will listen. If it helps us solve the problems of cost of living, I will listen. But if it's not about that, then it makes no sense having that discussion, because the only discussion we need to have is how we build this country, how we offer to working people a better life, how we bring cost of living down. People are suffering as a result of the cost of living, as you said earlier, Aruna. What we need to do is let's have a discussion about that. Let's stop. Let's desist from tearing each other down. Let's build this country up.
So you're open to having a conversation with the present administration?
I will have conversations with anybody who wishes to have conversations, because at the end of the day, I want all governments to succeed, because when they fail, we fail. And it matters not if the government decides they're going to implement everything the movement proposes, including what we talked about this morning. I am absolutely fine with
So
that.
you wouldn't have a movement if you're happy if you don't have a movement.
Well, we don't need a movement if all the movement wants to exist. You know, we won't need it. Unfortunately, it doesn't work that way because everybody works in a church. But the point I'm making is this. The movement is about getting some things done, not about the egos of politicians. As I said, I've been around in some of the most difficult periods in Grenada's history, and I know what politics can become. But what I want it to become is a zone, a source for positivity for this country. I believe in this country. I believe Grenada can be a better place. But what we need to do is to get Grenadians to believe it and let us work toward it, not tear each other down.
Some are saying how they don't think you have the stamina, the vigor, not at the age to run the action, to make action.
Yes,
and
but
make
then
things
just
move.
watch us. All you have to do is watch us. They said that when we started this road to the movement. Plenty of people said, including some leaders, said, Peter will never do it. They will never launch a movement. Well, we've launched it. And now you're still skeptical. So you know what? Either you join it or you watch it. But watch us. We are going to do what we say we're doing. Nobody expected Sunday to happen the way it happened. People are shocked by what happened. But you know what it took? People coming together. People believing. You know, and Aruna, we believe. And that is the point. We believe we can offer something new, something transformative, something that can build this country. And of course, there are skeptics. They don't want us to succeed. That's why they're saying that. But you know what? I meet people on the street every day who say, keep it up, Pedro. Keep it up. And that's what I'm doing. And on the day of my funeral, they will say whether or not I succeeded or I failed. But I'm going to go all the way in getting this done.
What is the next move for the movement?
Well, we're traveling on Friday, going to Toronto to a meeting with the diaspora because, you know, the diaspora is critical. I was happy to see, you know, there were colleagues here from New York, my brother Ralph and others who came in from New York to celebrate with us. They were there and I really appreciated their presence. A whole group of them came down and they made a serious impact. They assisted us. So we're going out to New York, we're going out to Toronto. Some of our colleagues are already in Toronto because the diaspora, as you know, is a critical part of our development. We only think of the diaspora and sending barrels and so on, but we must think of our diaspora as part of Grenada's development, but that's an entirely separate conversation we need to have. So that is going to take place. And then when we come back, not when we come back, but as we proceed with the future, we are going to be going to the communities. We are going to be developing our policies, as you raised a number of issues, our policy framework. We are going to be structuring our movement. And we're going to be getting ourselves ready to hit the road and convince Grenadians mostly that we can do it. We can build this country. And I believe from the energy I'm seeing, we have a very good surface to run on. The surface is a sprinting surface, and I think we can get it done.
Fantastic. Well, it was an absolute pleasure having you in the room for the first time. Hopefully you won't be
Did
your
I
last
tell you?
either.
Did I tell you I like the color of your fingernails? What color is that?
Listen.
Yes, I like your fingernails. I was watching it all the time. I love the color of your nails this morning, Aruna. So
Listen.
I forgot to tell you
Don't
that.
pull me out. It was an absolute pleasure having you in the studio this morning, and of course, we hope to have you back again anytime. Feel free to make contact. So we wish you all the best with the movement, and we'll, as you said, either you join or you'll continue to watch.
Yeah.
All right.
Yes, and I want to thank you for having me, and it's been an absolute pleasure. And keep up the good work.
We definitely
And
do.
The ladies' room was a pleasure this morning.
Thank
Take
you
care.
so very much. Have a good one, everybody. Thank you so very much for powering up. And we'll be back tomorrow, final one for the week. Until then, thank you so much, Novana Spa and Detox. Thank you so much, Beacon Insurance, Western Union, and Harry Edwards Jewelers for making it possible. And thank you to everyone on the live who tuned in. And, of course, those of you who were adding your voices to the conversation. Thank you so very much. Have a great Wednesday, everybody.
10 years, one station, Power 95, a decade strong. From day one to year 10, still your number one. Grenada's heartbeat on the airwaves. We didn't follow the culture. We built it. Your music, your station, your power. 10 years loud, proud and trusted. Power 95, a decade strong.